Rise and shine, it's a brand new day. Ken and Ken take the stage, ready to play. Weekdays at 10, the cars in the scene. Coffee in hand, they're living the dream. Aggression in the voice, got the whole town awake. Bringing fire to the mic, make no mistake. Shows in the corner, spitting out facts. Dropping truth bombs, ain't holding back. Ken and Ken in the morning, feel the heat. From 10 a.m. CST, can take a seat. We live and loud, that break in the mind. Light up your speakers, crank up the sound. They're talking about life upside down. Opinions exploding like a sonic blast. In the studio, they're built to last. With passion and grit, they engage and ignite. Every single week, their foes can't fight. From sports to politics.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Fred is always here bright and early, even though he'd rather be fishing. We got a Joe this morning. We got a Broski. Look at
Good morning,
Broski.
guys.
Fred, we're already talking in the comments before we even got started. Good morning.
Yeah, Fred's one of the more, logical Lions fans, I would say. Seems like a good dude.
Usually when I set the show up, it's usually around 9:30 in the morning. It's about a half hour before we go live. And he's always like in the comments before I even get back into the studio. He's already making comments. I'm like, you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you guys watch the game?
No, but I saw the highlights and I saw that hit. Dude.
Did you see the Koo field goal attempt?
No, I did not.
So Koo, who used to be, I think we'd all say, one of the better field goal kickers in the league, right? I mean, he won a lot of big games for Atlanta. They cut him this year. The Giants signed him. You're like, ooh, good signing by the Giants. He's a good kicker. He goes to kick it yesterday. He stubs his toe in the turf and does not kick the ball.
Oh, dang, man. Wow.
So the placeholder then picks the ball up, tries to roll out and do something. Of course, he gets clobbered by the defense. Yeah, Koo is not having a good year.
Time to find a new kicker. Dang.
Yeah, I don't know what his issue has been this year, but yeah, he is not having a good year. So yeah, not good for Koo.
I did see that. I think Abdul Carter got benched by the coach for not a non-injury related reason. Like it seemed like a poor attitude related reason.
I don't know. I mean, the kick issue was funny. Like everything looked good, and he goes to kick, and as the foot's coming forward, it just gets stuck in the turf. Like it just hits the turf and stops, and everyone's looking like, "What the heck just happened here?"
That's something else.
Yeah, no, he didn't slip, man. He didn't slip, Fred. He just kind of like put his foot in the dirt, and there it sat. Oh, we lost Joe for a minute. I'm gonna drop Joe below until this video comes back. I think we lost Joe. There we go. Where is Ken this morning? I don't check my Facebook Messenger in the morning. I should probably do that more often, huh, Broski? Yep, here we go. Oh, okay. Ooh, I hope. All right, Ken's not going to be here. Not immediate family, but his girlfriend's father is in the ICU, so they're in the hospital right now.
Tough one.
So no Ken.
Yeah, that was a stupid field goal thing. He planted his toe right in the turf.
Yeah.
Like,
really, dude? It's like, you're kidding me, right?
it's too bad they don't make blooper videos anymore, because that should be a blooper for sure.
Oh my God! Do you remember watching Football Follies as a kid?
I remember watching the sports bloopers, like the football bloopers. There was
they had
videos.
There was a TV show called Football Follies, and you'd watch them on Saturday morning, like after Saturday morning cartoons. Oh, that was a great show. Otherwise, man, I mean, dude, New England looked good yesterday. New York tried to hang around for a minute, but
But football follies, that's from when I was like a kid, right?
yeah,
Like,
70s, 80s.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, just if they were to just take the last 20 years alone, they could do at least a couple of seasons of football follies off just the last 20 years, dude.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
you have the butt fumble, you have like you have that field goal right there, you have the double doink, like
and for the Giants, man, you got to feel bad for them in a way because they tried to stay in this game. I mean, they put up a good fight against New England. They really tried.
did you see
Um,
Jackson Dart's coup landed like his toe in the turf? Jackson Dart was like, "What the fuck, dude?" Like that was literally like what he said. He's like, "What the fuck?"
just yeah, that kid, I almost feel sorry for him. I think he could be a good. He's got the right moxie. The skill sets, you can see the potential with his skill set. Man, I hope he survives New York. I think he's built right to be in New York, though, as far as mentality. You know what I mean? Um, you can't be a certain type of quarterback mentally and survive New York.
I mean, they've got him some weapons already, man. Like, Malik Neighbors went down early in the season, but next year Malik should be healthy. And then they got Scattaboo, and then their offensive line it's not great, but it's not the worst in the NFL. If they can add a couple more weapons for him, like their defense is pretty decent, right? Like they're not. I don't think the Giants are that far off, man.
I don't
Like,
either. I mean, they're not. And the thing is, like his mentality, I don't think the New York media will phase him. There's some quarterbacks that if you go, oh, put them in New York with the Giants or the Jets, or actually New Jersey, but you know what I mean. And let them have the kind of season that team is having, they'd wilt away, especially as a rookie.
can you imagine Shador as a Giant right now?
Oh God, no. It would be, I mean, even some of the guys who are like young, like if Young had gone to New York, his career would already be over. But because he went to Carolina and could grow, you know what I'm saying? He's going to have a decent career. Like, look what happened to Sam Darnold in New York. Look what happened to so many quarterbacks in New York. It's just that market, like Chicago, will kill you as a young quarterback. And it just seems to me that Dart isn't going to have that issue. Like, he's
I
just
think
got
Dart
that
has what it
mentality.
takes, man. Not just mentality either, like tools wise. I think Dart has what it takes, man. Like, because what we're seeing right now, this is rookie version Dart, and with an interim offensive coordinator Dart, like he hasn't hit his full potential. Like he's not even close. I think if they can
They
get
can
an
have,
offensive minded coach,
yeah.
by year 3, like I think Dart will be. He has a chance to be a top 10 kind of guy. Top
I mean,
15 at
unfortunately
least.
for New York, the next version of Ben Johnson doesn't appear to be in the pool this year, so to speak. Like, I can't think of who the offensive coordinator is who's going to be like Ben Johnson for them. You know what I mean? At least
Yeah,
play
and
calling wise.
Joe, you used the word hit with Dart, and did you see that hit he took last night?
I heard about it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, go watch that hit. He keeps taking hits like that. He's not going to have a career.
Yeah,
Like seriously, go look at that
wasn't it a
hit.
cheap hit too though? Like wasn't it out of
No,
bounds?
no, nope. He was in bounds.
Oh,
The only person who got a penalty on the play was Theo Johnson for coming over after the play and pushing and shoving the linebacker who smacked Dart.
mm. Yeah.
Which,
Well,
you know what? I
Dart
like to
does.
see that.
He puts himself in some dangerous positions. I would definitely work with Dart. Well, not me personally. I'm saying if I was the Giants, I would work with Dart in the offseason on learning how to like shift a little bit and not take hits head on. It will prolong his career because I don't think you can take away his running and have him still be like. I think his running is a big part of his game, and it's so you got to teach him how to run smart. But I was thinking, like, there's I think Todd Monken is going to be available, and isn't Todd Monken the offensive coordinator for the Ravens?
He is.
He is. So like there's talk that he might be available. Like I would look into hiring him as the offensive coordinator at least, maybe even I don't know about the head coach, but the offensive coordinator of the Giants, because if you ran a similar offense that the Ravens run with Dart, just a little less running and a little more passing.
You're going to have to hire him as the head coach because remember, you can't steal them away unless it's a promotion.
But I think he's getting fired. Like there was a rumor that he's getting, or either he's going to get fired or like I don't know that he was going to be available. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is just like you'd have to hire him as head coach.
Yeah, you have to. If he's still in their contract, you have to promote them. So, but look at promoting could be like if he's just the OC right now, but not the OC/assistant coach, you could make him the OC/assistant coach, which then technically would be considered a promotion by NFL standards. I know it's weird. But the Bears use that rule with Randall Antonell that he's the receiving coach /
Assistant
whatever
head
else.
coach.
He is. Yeah, I mean, they just added another title to him, so it's like okay, we promoted him. That's why we were able to steal him from you.
What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that idea about Todd Monken and the offense that he runs in Baltimore? Do you think that he could run that similar offense with Jackson Dart?
Look at with head coaching hires, it's always I go back to what the Bears did last year. And good morning, Dan. Hope you're feeling much better today, man. Rest up and get well, brother. When the Bears were in hiring coach, and you'll remember this, and Broski remembers this, I kept saying, like, look, I'm good with Ben Johnson because I wasn't so sold on the it boy at the time. I said, but look, if we're gonna hire Ben Johnson, you gotta have a good DC. The Bears got him a good DC, right? And I said, if you're going to go off the defensive-minded coach, you have to hire a good OC. The same, I think, holds even more true in New York than it did Chicago, because Chicago has better personnel overall than New York does. New York, if you're going to hire Monken, you better have a really good DC there with that because they got some really good pieces on defense. Now, if you're going to go with the defensive-minded coach because you got such a phenomenal core there for your defense, you got to find an OC who's a whisperer. And that's the problem this year. Like, you might be able, let's say you get Monken as your head coach. Okay, cool. Who's the DC?
I don't know who's available, but I will say that I think for the Giants, it's more important. I would think it would be better for them to get an offensive-minded coach. I think they would be doing Dart a disservice by getting a defensive-minded head coach. Like having a good offensive coordinator is great. I don't know who's going to be available, but if it comes down to like if you can only get Monken by hiring him as the head coach, I would strongly consider it. I think I would put more. I guess what I'm trying to say is I would put my emphasis on developing Jackson Dart and getting weapons around him. And like even a passable DC, like you have defensive talent. So if you can have a defense that's somewhere in the middle of the pack but you're developing Dart, you're going to be a good team.
Yeah, Broski. Broski, it doesn't elude me that if you look at head coaching hires, they've been mostly towards the type of argument that Joe just made. Get the offensive-minded coach that can whisper to the quarterback and just find you a somewhat good DC, because losing your DC does not hurt as much as losing your OC is kind of how it feels right now.
Yeah, the only exception to that is if you bring in a new DC and he changes the scheme overall. Like if he goes from a 4-3 to a 3-4, then you have personnel issues, and it usually takes you like a draft and an off season to kind of correct that. But yeah, no, your point is valid. I mean, it's definitely, these head coaching hires are definitely more offensive head coaches. And yeah, I mean, I don't see that trend really stopping overall. I think you'll still have a couple of defensive coordinators who are just studs who might get an opportunity, but like overall, it's definitely going to be more offensive head coaches, I feel. And I look at Dart play, and it's almost like he's like an amped up JJ McCarthy. Like he's kind of like what the Vikings wish like JJ McCarthy was, because they're very similar and just everything, man. Size, playing style, except for Dart just seems more acclimated to the NFL as long as he can not avoid taking those hits.
I think Dart has a better arm too.
He does.
Like a
yeah, he's
stronger
more
arm. I'm not
amped
saying
up.
I'm saying necessarily more accurate, but a stronger arm, maybe more accurate too.
Just a better arm. Yeah, just better, really. He's a little
I'll
better
say
at running. He's a little better at throwing. He's a little better at running the offense.
Mhm.
New
know.
York, their GM, people are talking about, oh, he's gonna get fired. I think he saved his job with this draft last year. Trading back into the first round to get Dart looks like a stud move right now. And
Mhm.
granted, his other, Scattaboo, his other high draft pick, got hurt, but his player acquisition has been, for the most part, very good. They for 2 years they were trying to get a quarterback, and they were struggling to get a quarterback, and he went in and got it this year, and it looks like he hit on Dart so far. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think he's still gonna keep a job. It's the head coach is gonna be interesting because who's out there for them this year? And Pete Carroll, look at if he gets fired in Vegas, I don't see him coaching again. I just see him retiring at this point.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Yeah,
Actually,
I'm not even sure he goes to a front office job anymore. I could see him just living in an island out in the like Eastern Pacific or something and just living life.
yeah. Actually, I was thinking about it. The Giants GM has gotten a lot of crap for letting Saquon Barkley leave, but if you look at his moves over the past 5 years or so, objectively, or if you weigh them all out, like he's made a lot of good moves, dude. So last year's draft class with Dart, Scattaboo, and Abdul Carter, right? Like Carter hasn't really become what they hope he will, but and there might be some character or some accountability issues there because he didn't start the first two drives again because last time he was late for team meetings or a walkthrough. This time I don't know what he did, but so there might be some concern there. But he went out, he traded for Brian Burns. He got Brian Burns for a bologna sandwich, right? He drafted Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, I mean, he's done some good things. Their GM has over the last 4 or 5 years. So, I think he can be forgiven for letting Saquon walk. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I feel like if that's you're gonna hang your hat on that and Russ, like
Look, I think Saquon's an interesting topic for that because like the money became an issue. That was one of those issues. Like they went to Saquon and say, "Hey, look, see what you're out there, and if we can match it, we'll match it." And he came back with the number they couldn't match. So I mean, sure, blame him, but at the same time, if he signs Saquon, then you don't get some of the other pieces you have right now that make your
Mhm.
team what they are. So, it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's kind of like, oh, the Bears need to go sign a big edge rusher. Okay, great. With what money? It's like we know that now. Look, we know they can make money kind of happen and move stuff around, but even that is measured. You can't do it indefinitely. So you got to be careful, with the cap in two ways. One, the natural cap, and then two, the cap that you manufactured, right? You got to be careful with both of those. And at some point, you hit a brick wall where now you're New Orleans if you don't. So I mean, I get with Barkley, and look at Barkley hasn't had he had a great year last year, cool. So it looks bad on New York. This year, pretty pedestrian.
Mhm. And that kind of lends itself to the argument that I was making, which is like I've heard a lot of bad talk about the GM in New York, but I actually feel like he's done a pretty serviceable job. If you weigh all his moves together,
Yeah,
like feel like you know,
I mean, he's brought in a great defense, some great people on the defensive line. He's made some great draft picks. He's managed that cap pretty well. Yeah, the Madden curse is real when it comes to Saquon, and Saquon had a couple curses. Um, but he's building a pretty balanced football team that both sides of the ball are pretty damn close. I say the defense is probably ahead of the offense, which is usually the case anyway. Um, he's done a good job. The problem's going to be with him looking for a head coach. Tennessee's also looking for a head coach. I think Atlanta might be looking for a head coach come end of the year too. Miami's not going to be looking for a new head coach. They're just getting a GM. Andy Reid might retire, but I think they're going to promote from within, right? The coaching tree is going to be interesting this offseason.
You know, two interesting things also that I think add to that argument. For is it Gettleman? Is Gettleman the
Yeah, that's
GM?
New York Giants.
Yeah, New York Giants. For the Giants GM, like, number one is before Scadaboo got hurt, he was looking like he was going to be the rookie of the year, and it wasn't even close. Like, so, you know, but he got hurt kind of early on in the season. So, like, we don't really get to, you know, I think that sort of lessened in people's eyes the impact of that pick. But Scadaboo is going to be really good going forward, and also, Malik Neighbors, I think he got hurt the very first game that Dart came in. So we really haven't got to see Dart and Neighbors what they can do yet. Like, so there's a lot of reason to be excited about, you know, your team if you're the Giants. Like, if you're a Giants fan,
I mean,
you got.
and that's what
I look at it like you got a bright future.
The Giants' current GM is Joe Schoen, though. So Gettleman was
Schoen.
their GM. Yeah, he
I'm
went.
thinking-
He did a good job in the Carolina Panthers when like Ron Rivera and Cam were there. He did a really nice job, and then went to the Giants, and it's been shown the last couple of years. Actually, I had to look that
Then
one up.
Schoen is who I'm talking about. Then that he's been
done
getting
a
a lot
good
of
job.
shit. He's been getting a lot of shit, but he's actually
Yeah.
done a decent job.
And look, even last night, they lose last night, but you could see, for as depleted as they are, you know, with basically losing their two top offensive weapons for their young quarterback, they still put up a pretty decent fight against everyone. They took the Packers to the edge. They took the Bears to the edge. They took the Lions they've taken everyone to the edge. They're not walking into places getting blown out 44-2. You know what I mean? They put up a hell of a good fight for I mean, this team healthy could be dangerous next year. And who knows what they get in the draft? And, you know, then it depends on what your head coach is. The coaching tree this offseason is what's going to be interesting to see who's available and what other shocks might happen.
They're going to have a top 10
it's very
pick, too.
very Chicago bearish from last year. You know what I mean? Like they're playing competitive. They have some nice pieces.
Giants,
They need a leader, you know, and they need to probably upgrade, you know, certain positions. But overall, like you said, they have what it takes to be a competitive team if they're you know, guided properly.
And then who knows?
Their head coaching search pans out.
That division is going to be could be really good next year if New York can improve, which I think they will just by people coming back off injury. But then with the great picks they're going to get this year, with Dallas's defense improving and getting better, and the picks they've got coming, Washington's going to get healthy again next year. I mean, they've had a very injury plagued year, so they're going to get some good draft picks. They're going to have a good draft pick this year. And then the Eagles, the Eagles will be the Eagles. They got a really good GM who does good things, even with their dysfunctionality this year. Dude, that conference, that division next year is going to be really good. The NFC North is still going to be really good. The North and the East are going to be fun to watch next year in the NFC. Actually, in the West, the NFC in general, someone said yesterday to me on X. I'm on my alternate account while I try to get my main account back. But someone said to me yesterday on my alt account on X that the AFC is doing so much better than the NFC. I'm thinking no. I mean, the NFC has so much more parity than the AFC. Right? The AFC has like a division where one team is good and the rest is dog shit. You look at the NFC, minus the NFC South. If you look at you can look at the East, all their records are dog shit, but New York's been in every game. You know, I mean, that division next year is gonna be really good. I love it how the NFL, and this is an argument why the cap works. Look at the parity in these divisions and how closely without the cap you don't have this.
Mhm.
Uh-oh. Kirby Joseph did what? I didn't know.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of Kirby Joseph news lately, and there's a lot of Lions fans saying, "Oh, he's playing this week and stuff." I'm really not sure where they're getting that from. All the stuff I've been reading is he has this chronic knee ailment now that will never fully heal no matter what he does. It's just one of those things. So if he comes back and plays ever, he's not going to be what he once was, and he's going to have to deal with pain also. So he was at practice yesterday, supposedly hobbling around, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's at practice. He's going to play. He's back. He's our Kirby," But honestly, man, like who knows when he's going to play again? And if he does, he's probably not going to be as impactful. They dropped a lot of money into, well, not Brian Branch yet, but they have two safeties who are getting paid, and Branch is going to have to get paid. They dropped a lot of money into Kirby this past offseason, not really panning out. So, yeah, Lions, man, it's speaking of cap, like some of Brad Holmes' decision to pay certain guys like a Derek Barnes, who's a third linebacker who gets stiff armed by Jameis Winston and punked by Jameis Winston, as he walks into the end zone. I don't think he's worth $8 million a year. You know what I mean?
No, but
Kirby
they have
Joseph.
money, though. I mean, I know you don't like Brad Holmes. I mean, you've made that painfully obvious to anyone who watches at all.
Well, I mean, Ken, do you think signing Derek Barnes for $8 million a year is a good move?
No, I'm not defending him for that. What I'm saying is, though, like the dude has cap money. So okay,
Yeah, but you're going at me
okay.
saying, "Oh, but you just don't like him." No, I just think that's a bad move.
I mean, look, I don't disagree
Like
with that.
giving,
but
it's
overall,
very
he's got
risky
enough
paying
space.
safeties that much
He's
money
got
to.
enough space to like where when he does something like that, it almost really doesn't make a difference because he's got so much money, right? Because they get so much value out of so many other players that when he has a contract like that, it's like, okay, that's a bad contract, sure, but it hasn't negatively affected the Lions' ability to do anything. And that's more my point. Is like, great, I agree, it's a bad contract, but has it affected the Lions in a way where they can't do anything? No, it hasn't.
Well, we don't know. I mean, and that's the point of the cap. Like each year, there's
Yeah,
a certain hit that you take for each contract, and if you keep, you pay Hutch $47 million a year on average. Like Hutch is a nice player, but that's way over what he should be getting paid. Like
anyone.
I don't know, man. I just think there's a lot of everyone was holding this Brad Holmes guy up in such high regard, and man, I can go down the list of bust draft picks he's made. He basically whiffed on the entire 2024 draft class.
Well, okay,
So that's gonna help. That's gonna hurt them with cap.
Hold on,
and stuff,
bro.
too.
Hold on, broski. His valuation is $45 million a year, according to Over the Cap. Right, that's his valuation. His contract is this year. His cap number is 14. Is Aiden Hutchinson. His biggest cap number isn't until 2028, and that's 21 mil. And then, of course, at the back end, you get 53, 49, 44 because the way they move money. So for these next couple years, dude, his money to his value makes sense. In the back end are void. There's a void year for the 44 mil, and they'll be, how they move money. So that contract actually is not bad. Now, if you want to talk cap space, I mean, they've got cap space. They've got currently this year 20 mil. Well, no, actually, we'll call it more of 19.
I mean, I wasn't talking cap space. You brought up cap space. I was saying the Derek Barnes contract is shit, which it is. And the Kirby contract is not a good one either because he signs this big deal and now he's never going to be the same player.
Yeah, but I mean, Kirby's cap hit next year is $5 million. 5.8 million is his cap hit next year. I mean,
but if what Broski is saying is accurate and he's never going to be the same player, then that's 5.8 million that you're essentially wasting.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, at the same time, when you sign a guy, you can't predict injuries.
Again, a safety you can replace with a 5th-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at running back. Yeah, the Bears just showed you can replace with a 7th-round pick.
I know, and I had people like arguing with me that, well, not on this channel, not you guys, but like on another podcast, like, Oh, the running back position's, not devalued because of the reasons that you can draft one in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. I'm like, guys, you don't make any sense. Like, yeah, that's exactly why it's devalued.
I mean, look with signings. I mean, you get a guy like Kirby. Okay, fine. Now he's got the injury thing. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't injured at the time he got the extension, and then he gets injured. And now, oh, what a bad signing because he got injured. Like, dude, like if the GMs had crystal balls, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
so
no,
okay,
I hear you, but it's like one of those things too. It's kind of like there are certain like rules of thumb. I feel they kind of do play out over history. Like you don't sign wide receivers who are 30+ years old to like huge contracts. Like I'm not saying every time it doesn't work, but I'm saying more
right.
times than not, you're gonna see a lot
Right,
of times
look
it does
at
bite you in
Scary
the
Terry.
ass.
The stuff we talked about in the offseason came
Yeah,
out. Like,
like
this is why
yeah,
Washington doesn't want to do it, and then
and
Washington caves, and he's
yeah,
been hurt most of the year. Right? And I mean,
exactly. And
I
then there's
don't
certain
disagree with that.
positions, you know what I mean? Like a safety or like a middle linebacker or a running back. I think those positions have kind of been devalued compared to other positions. So
And I think that we look at too with some signings, like yeah, well, Kirby obviously now with the injury, Davenport. No one here likes Davenport. Um, I think
I
too
hope
when
they
you look
bring
at
him
some,
back.
yeah. Um, I think when you look at some signings too, you look at okay, well, why did player X get 8 million? Like, why did Deo get 8 million out of Chicago? Well, positionally, he plays a position that gets a lot of money. So
Yeah.
and some of it you have to kind of be willing to
Yes.
maybe overspend on a guy initially, hoping that he pans out to be something better. So that's where you're
Sure.
listening to your scout. So like Poles looked at Deo and his scout said, "Look, we think this guy's going to make the next step. He has this attribute, that attribute, all these attributes that we really like in a defensive end. Pay the dude, 8 million this year. Work out blah blah blah," and they do. And the kid didn't work, and then he got hurt with the Achilles, which means he's
Yeah.
probably out all next year because the Bears won't activate him. So the Bears got lucky in that regard that he got injured the way he did. While it's not, we don't wish this on Deo, but his injury kind of helped the Bears because now they can kind of get rid of his contract
Sure.
next year,
I
right?
totally agree with
So
everything you said
when you,
about Dale. Yeah, absolutely. And
when you
Kent,
look at how GMs do business, part of it is speculation, and they're listening to their scouts and
sure.
everything else. So I mean, and you can't. And the great X factor in all this is injury, because that's the one thing that in some cases there are no indicators. Like what boggles my mind is how Kwesi can look at JJ McCarthy and say this kid will never have injury issues in the NFL. The dude couldn't stay healthy in college. What makes you think he's going to stay healthy as a professional? Like those indicators, sure. But then you get some players who've never had an injury and you sign them to a big contract and all of a sudden they become an injury issue, right, Joe? I mean, you can't predict that.
But yeah, you're right. But I think two things can be true at the same time, Ken. I think like you can't predict injuries, but you can look at a contract. I'll give you a perfect example: Christian Wilkins for the Raiders. Like at the time, everybody said, well, they overpaid, but like you said, it's speculation. We expect that this dude's going to come in and be one of the top DTs in the league. We're pairing him
Right.
up with Max, right? He gets injured. He plays a total of 5 games for us, right? So no matter how you want to slice it, in hindsight, that was a terrible signing.
Yeah,
It's
well, hindsight's
absolutely a
always gonna be
terrible signing,
2020.
right?
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying is like people operate off of hindsight, like they tend to, and
I
so even at the time, the Raiders were kind of getting crap because they overpaid, but now it just looks even worse because like you paid a dude $90 million for 5 games, like. Both things can be true is what I'm saying. Like
I agree.
we went and
Yeah.
speculated that Christian Wilkins was going to be a great signing, and it due to injury that we could not foresee,
Right. It just
it
didn't
ended up
work.
being a terrible signing.
I
So,
So
think
and
though, like when it comes
one thing I was
when
going
it
to add really quick, if you don't
yeah,
mind.
no, go ahead.
A lot of times too, we kind of criticize GMs too for, which I agree with the criticism of paying players based on past performance, like kind of rewarding them
Right.
for what they have done in the past. They might have been some player with the team for maybe he's on his second contract with the team, or going for his second contract, and he's been there for 3 or 4 years. But it's like you have to look like, hey, what you have to project forward, what you think he will do going forward. I mean, that's the whole reason why to me, you give someone a contract extension. And
get
that's kind of
both
what Poles
arguments.
was doing with Dale. Like he was kind of saying the talent's there. We think this guy's going to break out with us. So we're paying him based on what we think he can do in the future, which I get. Like I'd rather him do that than reward some old crusty guy who you know is probably
Right.
going to fall off in a year.
And I agree with that. And look, I don't mind every so often, especially if you've got a guy who's been with the team for a long time and they give him that kind of, like you just said, reward contract, right? I don't mind that either to a certain degree because I think there is a place for that as well. Like Joe said, I think both can be true in that case as well. The problem with GMs, like with Brad Holmes in particular, look, he has assembled a great team up there overall. I don't think any of us can argue differently. Like he's done a pretty good job at building the Detroit Lions. Gutekunst has done a pretty good job of building the Packers. Even Crazy Quezzy has done a pretty good job of building that Minnesota Vikings team. And Ryan Poles has done a good job of building this Bears team. These 4 GMs, whatever their faults, and each one has them. They've all done, I would argue, better than average jobs of building these franchises compared to some of their counterparts that are in this league. It's a hard thing with the GM because hindsight is, of course, always 2020. With the draft picks, we expect them to hit now, but in reality, you have to wait 3 to 4 years. And with the draft, what I really hate about the draft is it's the speculation of the greatest detail because over half your first round picks don't work. You figure it's like at any given point in time, just over 2,000 players in this league, and we draft 378 of them or whatever every year, right? And then the undrafted free agents, we probably try to bring 500 players into a system every year, of which there's only like 2,000 or 3,000 under contract at any given point in time. So, the number of players we bring in every year to look at, new players with the old players, is kind of, you're 25, 30, whatever percent. You see, that's a big. So, I get it. It's hard with the GMs, but I think that these GMs in these 4 teams specifically have all done a pretty decent job in their tenures. And if you look at New York, I think he's done a good job with the Giants of managing the personnel, bringing them in. The other piece to the GM is the head coach situation. I think in the North, they got the head coaches right. Dan Campbell, for as shitty as a play caller and play designer as he is a great head coach. But he's an old school head coach that requires a good OC and DC, right? I think New York, Dable was not necessarily the wrong choice initially, but over time it soured.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ken. No, those are good points because I always look at it like it's like a 3-faceted thing for a GM. It's like you have to draft well, you have to sign good free agents, and you also have to implement, like, you have to bring in a good coaching staff. Like, all three of those, and fourth, which goes with everything, is obviously managing the cap, So
yep.
Yeah, so it's like that's what the role is. And like you said, certain GMs have certain strengths or certain weaknesses. Like Quessy in Minnesota, literally the worst drafting GM I possibly have ever encountered. You know what I mean? Brad Holmes, on the other hand, very good with the draft. But some of his picks now, he's not as good as everyone thought he was. Poles might actually be a little better than people thought he was at the draft at this point. And it's a tough job. You're juggling a lot, you're managing a lot, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of be on point with all 4 of those areas.
Like Sewell hasn't really panned out for the Bears. That's a pick by Poles. He's serviceable. He's been decent this year. You look at this year's draft class. Monangai, of course, saves him because Monangai has been such value in the 7th round. But you look at Burden. I think Burden's is working out, right? And of course, there's so much with Burden and Colston. There's so much other talent in the offense that's got to be fed. Those guys, but what we've seen of both, I think they work out.
Yeah.
But like
especially for being rookies.
Yeah, Hippolyte, but the other 2nd round picks, Hippolyte, and we haven't seen them as much. But I think that's because there's so much talent on this Bears team already overall. But really, he's done, and he did a great job of fixing the O line. He's created depth where there was none. I mean, because the Bears had no depth. Now all of a sudden we got all kinds of depth. Like, whoa, what happened here? Um, it's interesting when it comes to these GMs, because injury does play a big piece in it. And I think the other problem we have to remember with talent, especially with the draft, it's hard to. It's like looking at a kid at high school and thinking, "Well, I can draft into the NFL." To a certain degree. I mean, obviously they've had 2 or 3 years of college now, so they've gotten some more tutelage. They've grown stronger, bigger, whatever. But the mental piece is the Wonderlic test is garbage. I'm sorry. Because you get guys who do terrible on it, end up being stud pro players. And you get guys who are these super smart Wonderlic kids, and they can't grasp the NFL.
Yeah, and if you look at the Bears, they have a first round pick, 2 second-round picks, and a 7th-round pick who are contributing, a decent amount to a lot as rookies, which
year.
Well, yeah, as
Bayless
rookies,
Jones
exactly.
Gone. I mean, they're see, that's the thing.
Yeah, Colston Loveland, Burden, Tripio,
Right.
and Monangai. I mean, those
That's the
guys.
thing with GMs, like we look at a GM, like look at before this year, Broski. You remember certain guys? Oh, Bulls can't draft. Look at Bayless Jones, and blah this guy and that guy. It's like,
Well,
I mean, I'm not trying to diss.
well, my thing was Poles
like,
always could
Poles
draft
good.
first and second round. He was good. It's just the
It-
Browns
it-
after
the hit
that.
and miss rate on these kids in the draft overall for all GMs is pretty freaking high. And then once in a while, you get a draft class like he
Yeah.
had this year where you shine. And that's why. And the bigger point I'm trying to make is with that is that's just the ebb and flow of being a GM in this league, like with the draft. And then you
Sure.
look at free agency and what they do. And like you said, it's like 3 or 4 tiers that got to be put together. And I think the guy in New York has done a pretty good job overall. Miami, you can see why he got fired because he wasn't bringing in talent. They let a lot of talent
Yeah.
walk. You let Van Ginkel walk. I mean, you got nothing for Van Ginkel.
Yeah,
know,
and
Nothing for him.
specifically to Poles a little bit more, it's like, I've been highly critical of his draft picks from the 3rd to the 7th round. One thing I will say good about Poles, though, like he hits on the 1st and 2nd round picks pretty well, and he's done a good job there. And he's hit on a lot of undrafted free agent rookies.
Yep.
So that's one thing where it's just like, man, you see these McLeods and these Jalen, or what is it, Jalen Jones or whatever, the cornerback, and Tyson Bagent, and what's his face, the linebacker that went to Dallas, and there's a couple of other guys like that in the mix too that were undrafted guys. So he has hit on some of them.
Your scouting departments, that's the other thing too. The GMs are only as good as their scouting department, and that's really, Joe, to me, a big thing that doesn't get talked about enough. Like you're really like, how do you find Tyson Bagent? Because you've got a scout that covers that region who saw him and gave you really good advice on him.
Mm-hmm. Right? Scouting is, in my opinion, scouting is one of the more important things that a GM needs is a good scouting department. The Raiders for years didn't have a good scouting department. And I mean, you could argue right now that their scouting department isn't that great. I don't know. They've hit on some, they've missed on more.
But that's the thing, Joe. Who left from that? Because like the scouting department usually survives GMs, right? For the most part, the scouts stay with teams for a long time, and they survive the GM changes. I mean, who left from the Raiders? I mean, that's what needs to be looked at. Like in the Raiders case, like who got rid of their good scouts?
Yeah,
which GM?
Sure. If you think about it, the best way to help manage the cap is by drafting them.
Mm-hmm. I would also point out, like we're giving Poles a lot of credit, and granted, he deserves a good amount for fixing the offensive line. But I argued this the other day too. I don't think that the offensive line fix is only the players. I think hiring Ben Johnson as head coach was a very good move for the Bears because Ben Johnson is one of those rare coaches that actually tailors his scheme to fit his players rather than forcing his players to fit the scheme. And like you see how he gets creative with using players certain ways. Like he had DJ, I think it was DJ Moore throwing the ball the other day. Like,
he's figured out that DJ, I can have him throw, I can have him run. He's got all these different talents I can use. Like, dude, I would love to see, who knows what Justin Fields is going to be at the end of the year. But I had this weird thought, like, what if Justin Fields gets released? Like, let the Bears sign him as running back 3 next year. Could you imagine the shit? I mean, look, it'll never happen because he was the former overall, number 1 pick for the Bears, former starting quarterback, QB1. To bring him back as RB3 would be kind of like unheard of and not going to happen. Could you imagine if it did? The stuff that Ben Johnson would do with him in the backfield, like you'd get a lineup where you'd have, okay, running back 3s in the backfield. So you got Caleb and Justin both sitting back there. And look at Justin. It's not like he can't throw because he can, but you could do what he did with Bajan. But okay, is he going to run? Is he going to throw? Is he going to throw it back to Caleb? I mean, basically take the play that they run right now with Tyson Bajan, but make it Justin Fields. Oh my God!
Right, and having a good O-line coach that is, to me, one of the most, you know what I mean, like I don't know if you want to say underestimated, but let's just say one of the most key coaching jobs on any team anymore, I feel, is the O-line coach. And the Bears brought in Dan Rashar, and he's done a hell of a job. And he's had some good players to work with as well, but let's face it, man, he's been bringing these younger players into the mix and getting them up to speed very well. So
yeah, bro. Because look, you bring in at left tackle. We've had 3 guys at left tackle, and all 3 guys have played great. You've had multiple right guards this year with because Jonah Jackson's missed a little bit of time, and there's been no drop off when he's been out. When Darnell Wright was out, there was no drop off when he was out from the backups, which is like for a game you're like, okay, fine, but in some cases it's been longer than a game, and you're like, wow. I mean, I think it's one of those things where your O-line coach and your offensive scheme have to be meshed perfectly. And I think you're in that situation in Chicago where last year, like, not that those O-linemen we had last year were trash, just the O-line and the coaching did not the coaching and the scheme did not mesh. And it showed terribly. And then it leads to guys getting injured because now they're doing things they normally probably shouldn't be doing. It also leads to more penalties, and it leads to a lot of things. And that's why you see guys when they leave a certain team, they go to another team, and all of a sudden they're all pros. And fan base like, wait, this guy was complete garbage when he played for us. How is it this guy goes to New England and all of a sudden it's a stud lineman? Well, because the scheme and the coaching fit better. And you're right that with Ben Johnson, Joe, and I think that's a trend like you're going to see, because look at what happens with Vrabel and Ben. They both tailor their teams to their players. And then you look at what's going on in Vegas, where you have an old school coach who does it. This is my system. This is what we're going to run. I think we're going to see a lot of young coaches now doing the Ben Johnson thing. Like, I'm going to tailor my offense. Now, look, not everyone can do that. Mike Martz could not do that. Mike Martz was a genius, greatest show on turf. But his offense only works with X, Y, and Z, and he can't design offenses like on his specific players. It's not his bag of tricks.
So I read something the other day that was interesting, right? Like, so the Raiders just fired Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator, right? But there was I want to call it, it's kind of an article, it's kind of a clickbait thing, but it said that if you go back and watch the Raiders offense from this year, that it doesn't look like a Chip Kelly offense at all. It looks like a Pete Carroll offense. And so it makes me wonder, like, if Chip ever really got the free reign to run his own offense, or if Pete just told him, no, this is the offense we're going to run. I want you to basically, you get to call the plays, but you're going to basically run the offense that I want to run.
You know what, Joe? If that's true, and we will probably never know, because these guys are professional enough, they don't dime each other out. He's not going to dime Pete Carroll out, because you just don't dime Pete Carroll out, right? The guy's got the respect. You respect them enough not to do that. What if Chip Kelly becomes the OC in New York next year with a defensive-minded head coach, and that coach goes, "Hey, Chip, run your offense with Jackson Dart"?
I think that you could see. I think he would have a chance of success there. Like, young quarterback, good young running back, top shelf receiver. Like, they're going to add probably another big weapon in the draft. They're going to get at least a top 10 pick. Like, they're 2-10 right now. Like 2-9, they're going to get it. They're going to get a top 10 pick.
Now, Broski, if Chip Kelly, because I know you're such a huge fan of Chip Kelly, but let's say this scenario plays out, right? I mean, is Chip Kelly maybe? Let's say and he works. The offense he installs in New York next year. Let's say it works with a good defensive head coach, and him as the OC with Dart has an offense that works. Is he one of those guys who should be like Vic Fangio and just turn down the idea of being a head coach and just become an OC guru like Fangio is a DC guru?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's more suited just to be an OC than a head coach. I don't think he's really built for that in the NFL. The only thing I was going to add with him is, if you bring in let's say a young defensive minded head coach like Jaro Evero, like who's a hot rumor for the Giants job, 44 years old, defensive coach, like you have to be careful with hiring an older, more established like Chip Kelly, where he could try to like overstep his role with with the younger head coach and try to throw his weight around kind of thing.
Isn't Dennis Allen older than Ben Johnson in Chicago?
Who's who?
I mean, we know Dennis Allen had his head coaching gig for a minute there in NOLA.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that
Ben Johnson's the offensive head coach, though. That's the thing. So he's
I mean,
calling all the plays.
So if you bring in a defensive head coach in New York and bring in Chip Kelly, I mean, the dynamic is the same as in Chicago. Just the roles are reversed. I mean, you just have to let Chip Kelly call the offense and have trust in him. That's why you'd hire him for his offense and to call that offense, and then you just have to, maximize your talents as the head coach on defense, and then as a head coach, do part of that head coach thing, create the culture. Because when you think about it, that's all Ben Johnson did, right? He came in, brought a culture. He runs that offense. Dennis Allen runs that defense. It's a true Ditka, Buddy Ryan kind of system there, right? The head coach runs the offense. The DC runs the defense. They each do their own thing, but Ben created the overall culture, kind of how Ditka created the overall culture in Chicago. And then you had these two great minds.
Yeah. No, I hear you with that. I definitely hear you. And yeah, and you saw how that friction kind of was between Ditka and Buddy Ryan and whatnot. But with the Giants specifically, like I think Mike Kafka could actually, if they wanted to retain him as OC, I'm not sure he'd want to stay. But if they bring in a defensive head coach, they might want to consider keeping Kafka. I think that guy's got some potential to be a pretty good OC.
How often do we see that happen? I know.
Yeah, it honestly it probably won't, but I'm just saying, like, I've been throwing his name out there for the Lions and stuff too, as like their OC next year. I just think the guy has something to be a good play caller in the NFL.
But I wanted to look at because I kind of think there's some truth to that rumor about Chip Kelly not being having been hamstrung by Pete Carroll. Because if you look at the Raiders' offense this year, it didn't really have any of the creativity that Chip Kelly's offense had at Ohio State last year. Yeah. Like none of it. It was very vanilla, a lot of predictable play calling. It didn't look like a Chip Kelly offense to me. And granted, the Raiders, what makes it kind of like shit cloudy or not very clear is that the Raiders' offensive line is just absolute dog shit. So it's like
Chip Kelly, man, he could end up in Miami. He could end up in a couple places in OC, like where maybe the head coach and the DC stay, but they just replace their OC with Chip Kelly because I think he's a good offensive mind. And if you've got an offense that's been sputtering, and Miami's one of those cases where you don't see the creativity anymore. You don't see it. I mean, Tua has been pretty much injury free, man. Tua can do it, given but their offense, like McDaniel, might just go. You know what? I need a fresh offensive mind. And Chip Kelly could be. I think Chip Kelly will be in demand as an OC this year. I would caution people as taking him as the head coach. I think he's more of the Vic Fangio. Okay, the head coaching thing. And I hope I hope for the Bears that Dennis Allen is like that. Him and Ben Johnson. Like if we haven't learned anything from Ditka and Ryan, like Ditka and Ryan together were phenomenal. Look at the '85 Bears. The once they parted ways, neither of them were able to recapture anything close to what they had together. That whole idea of stronger together is true for a lot of reasons. And I hope that for the Bears, for example, that Allen resists the urge to go become a head coach and just stick it out with Ben Johnson, and you guys are both going to make tons of money,
Yeah.
and hopefully win a bunch of rings together. Because the second because well, I want to become a head coach for the money, I think you lose that ability. And Ben Johnson leaving Detroit, like, look at Ben Johnson was willing to keep the band together for an extra year when he could have left. Him and AG both, right? And they did, and they gave
Yeah.
it the shot. And if they had won a ring, I don't think Ben Johnson's in Chicago this year. I think they're trying to run it back. Like, I hope that Dennis Allen does the same thing in Chicago, and I hope that Chip Kelly, wherever he goes, if he has
Yeah.
success, that he does the same thing, because he is like a Vic Fangio to me. He is a guy who's a good offensive coordinator who can do some really cool things, but he's not a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, and with the Bears too, you have Al Harris waiting in the wings. So it's like there's a lot of rumors he might get a DC job somewhere. So let's say that Dennis Allen does leave and take a head coaching job. Maybe the Bears actually could promote Al Harris to DC and actually be just as well off.
I don't think there's always a difference. I go back to the argument I was making with Lions fans with Morton. Yeah, he may be from within. He may know your scheme. He's still not the guy who makes the call at the time of impact and does not and gets and you know the play
Oh,
caller.
for sure, it'd be a new job for him. Yeah, it would be his first time doing it for sure.
Yeah,
I don't
But,
think Dennis
but like
Allen
you said,
has earned
let's
another
hope Dennis
head
Allen
coaching job.
stays. Let's hope
He
Dennis
has.
Allen
I don't
stays.
think you have to worry about that. I don't think Dennis Allen has
not
earned.
this year. Not this year, Joe, but maybe a year or two down the road, he'll be
Okay.
brought back up.
Well, yeah, but that's that's some speculation. Like if he continues on the trajectory he's on, he might get another shot. But don't forget, he was also the head coach of the Raiders in 2012, and like that run didn't go well. Then he went
He
to
might not
NOLA.
want it.
That run didn't
the
go
Vic
well.
Fangio route. Yeah, he might go the Vic Fangio route. We never know. He may
Honestly,
say,
at this point, I would.
Yeah.
I would say just stick with what you do well, man.
Like Daniels in New England. Like, you're a great OC, dude, in New England. Never leave.
Yeah,
You know?
just stay as long as they'll have you and collect your
Yeah.
check.
Never leave, because every time you go become a head coach, you kill franchise. Right?
Man.
So, yeah, I get it. Ben Johnson, within 72 hours, he was gone. AG a day or two after. I mean, that's not uncommon when guys leave. And I get that Lions fans are like, yeah, but they're so flat. These guys were out of they were out of the mental mind space before they even left. I get that. But if they had won a ring, I think both those guys stay and try to do a back-to-back.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the AG
Why
and
wouldn't
Ben
you?
seem like those kinds of guys to me.
Why wouldn't you? Right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the problem, Fred, I mean, okay, we only got like a minute. So let me try to address this quickly. I don't disagree with what Fred's saying, but unfortunately, the business of the NFL is such that you have to get your head coach as fast as possible because of the combine and all the other stuff that goes on pre-draft. And it's such a compacted space of time, you don't have that luxury of waiting until they're completely out.
Hmm.
Time does not work in their favor.
Can you go back? There was a comment from this guy Turtlet. He asked a question about the Raiders.
We only got about a minute. There you go. Let me try to
Yeah,
find
it's
it.
back
Yeah.
one more.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not
I
about the
don't know where
Raiders.
it was. It might be back there further 'cause I'm not seeing it. We got like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for joining Joe Broski and myself today. We appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back tomorrow morning. And we're getting into War Week. We got to talk about the Lions Cowgirls game Thursday night. Last night was a good game. We had some good discussion based off that with the GM issues there. It's War Week, Bears Packers as well. What will the Vikings and the Raiders do this week in their quest to get a good draft pick? Like I put that. Guys, JB is next. He'll be talking all kinds of good Lions stuff, so maybe some of that will go there. Fred, thank you for being so early again. Love you, brother. But for Joe, myself, and Ken and Broski, everyone have a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.